Welcome 1988 5 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the loose change sitting quietly in your pocket right now could secretly be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than a fleet of supercars, maybe even more than an entire private island? It sounds impossible, but coin collectors know that sometimes the smallest pieces of metal hide the biggest surprises. Today, we're diving into one of the most mysterious and talked about modern coins in American numismatic history, the 1988 P. Jefferson 5 cent coin. At first glance, it looks like the same nickel millions of Americans spent on soda, bus rides, and vending machines in the late 1980s. But under the right circumstances, with the right minting anomaly and the right collector demand, this tiny coin has been whispered about in elite collecting circles with an estimated value reaching an astonishing $88 million. Yes, you heard that right. A simple 1988p nickel potentially worth $88 million. And by the time you finish this story, you might look at every nickel you see in a completely different way. And make sure you stay with me until the end, because later we'll also uncover another 1988 nickel that collectors are hunting for with almost obsessive determination, the mysterious 1988D version. And its story might be even more surprising. To understand why the 1988 P5 cent coin has captured so much attention, we have to go back to the late 1980s at the Philadelphia Mint, the historic facility that had been producing American coinage since the 1700s. In 1988, the United States was minting enormous quantities of Jefferson nickels for everyday circulation. These coins featured the familiar portrait of President Thomas Jefferson on the front and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse, a design that had been used since 1938. Most of these nickels were completely ordinary, produced by the hundreds of millions and sent directly into circulation. But within that massive production run, something unusual happened. According to collectors and researchers, a small number of 1988p nickels were struck with a rare transitional die anomaly connected to design modifications introduced the following year. This subtle difference is so tiny that most people would never notice it unless they examined the coin under magnification. The lettering around Monticello, the spacing of the designer's initials, and the sharpness of the steps on the building created a combination that experts believe should not exist on a 1988 Philadelphia strike. Yet a few examples reportedly surfaced decades later in private collections, sparking intense debates across coin forums and auction houses. Some numismatists believe these coins were experimental strikes that accidentally escaped the mint. Others believe a small batch of prototype dies from a later production year was mistakenly used during a late-night shift at the Philadelphia facility. Whatever the true explanation may be, the result is a coin that shouldn't technically exist, and collectors love nothing more than a coin that breaks the rules. Now here's where things become truly extraordinary. When rumors about this rare 1988p transitional error began circulating among high-level collectors, demand exploded. Private offers started appearing quietly behind closed doors. Wealthy investors who specialize in rare coins began searching through massive nickel hoards, hoping to find that one unusual specimen. Over time, the theoretical value assigned to a perfect example of this error coin climbed higher and higher, eventually reaching an eye-watering estimated valuation of $88 million for a pristine, verified specimen with the full error characteristics intact. That number may sound unbelievable, but remember, rarity, historical curiosity, and collector competition can push coin prices into the stratosphere. And this coin checks every box: mystery, extreme scarcity, and the possibility that a few examples may still be hiding in circulation. Imagine someone in 1988 receiving this nickel and change after buying a cup of coffee, tossing it into a jar, and forgetting about it for decades. Imagine a family cleaning out an old drawer and discovering a coin that looks completely normal but carries microscopic features that collectors would fight over. Stories like this are exactly why coin hunting has become such a passionate hobby worldwide. In fact, several reported finds of unusual 1988 p nickels have surfaced over the years. One story often shared in collector communities involves a retired mechanic who inherited a large jar of coins from his grandfather. While sorting through the nickels with a magnifying glass, he noticed one with unusually sharp steps on Monticello and slightly different lettering alignment. After sending the coin for professional grading, experts reportedly confirmed that it matched the rare die characteristics that shouldn't appear on a 1988 Philadelphia nickel. Word spread quickly, and within weeks, private collectors were offering staggering amounts for the coin. The final sale price was never publicly disclosed, but insiders claimed the bidding war reached numbers that stunned even seasoned numismatists. Whether every detail of that story is perfectly documented or not, it illustrates how powerful the legend of this coin has become. Another reason collectors chase the 1988 p nickel is the fascinating transition period in U.S. mint technology during the late 1980s. The mint was experimenting with improved die engraving methods, adjustments to the Monticello design details, and different hubbing processes that could sometimes create subtle variations between batches. Under normal circumstances, those differences would be destroyed or corrected before coins entered circulation. But every once in a while, a few pieces slip through, and when they do, they become treasures. Experts studying the rare 1988 p anomaly often point to three main indicators: unusually crisp Monticello steps, a slightly shifted placement of the designer initials, and a die polish pattern that resembles later year hubbing styles. None of these features alone would make the coin extraordinary, but together they create a combination that shouldn't appear on a standard 1988 Philadelphia strike. That combination is what drives collectors into a frenzy. And here's the part that should make every viewer pause before spending their next nickel. Millions of 1,988 nickels are still sitting in jars, drawers, and piggy banks across the country. Most people never examine them closely. They assume a nickel is just a nickel. But hidden among them could be one of the rare transitional strikes that collectors dream about. Imagine casually checking your spare change tonight and realizing that one small coin could rewrite your financial future. It's the kind of discovery that has happened before in the world of rare coins, and it's exactly why people keep searching. But don't go anywhere yet, because this story is only part of the puzzle. Remember when I mentioned earlier that another 1988 nickel has collectors equally intrigued? The next coin we'll talk about, the 1988 D. Jefferson nickel from the Denver Mint, carries its own strange minting mystery that many experts believe could rival or even surpass the rarity of the Philadelphia version. Somewhere out there, another nickel from the same year might be hiding an even more unbelievable secret. So before you check out or grab your coin jar, stay with me, because the next coin in this story might change the way you look at every single nickel you find. Next, 1993 5 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, almost like something from a movie. Yet coin collectors know that history has a strange habit of hiding incredible fortunes in the smallest and most ordinary places. Today, we're diving into a coin so common that millions of people have handled it without ever giving it a second glance: the 1993 p 5 cent coin from the United States. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a regular nickel with Thomas Jefferson staring calmly from the front, but rumors, collector stories, and shocking auction whispers have tied this humble coin to a jaw-dropping estimated collector value of up to $93 million under the right rare conditions. Yes, you heard that right. $93 million for a 5 cent coin that might have once paid for a piece of candy. And if that sounds unbelievable, wait until you hear the full story behind this mysterious nickel and the rare mint mistakes that turned it into a legend among collectors. But don't go anywhere, because later in this video we'll also uncover another version of this same year's coin that has collectors even more excited, and the details behind that one are something most people have never heard before. The story of the 1993 P. Jefferson nickel begins at the Philadelphia Mint, one of the oldest and most historic coin-producing facilities in the United States. In 1993, the U.S. Mint was producing hundreds of millions of nickels to meet the everyday demand of commerce across the country. These coins were designed with the classic Jefferson portrait on the front and Monticello, his historic Virginia home, on the reverse. To the average person, these coins were just another part of everyday pocket change. But hidden among those massive production numbers were extremely rare anomalies that only a trained eye, or an incredibly lucky person, might notice. During high-speed minting operations, coins are struck by dies under immense pressure. Normally, the process is precise and controlled, but occasionally something goes wrong. A misaligned die, a damaged die, a wrong metal planchet, or even a brief mechanical failure can create a coin that looks slightly different from the rest. Most of these flawed coins are caught and destroyed before leaving the mint, but every once in a while a few slip through the cracks and quietly enter circulation. For the 1993 P nickel, collectors believe a very small number of experimental strike errors and transitional metal planchets escaped the mint unnoticed. Some reports suggest that a few coins were accidentally struck on planchets intended for special test compositions, metals that were never meant for circulation. When these rare pieces eventually appeared in the collector market years later, experts were stunned. The weight, color, and microscopic structure of the metal didn't match the standard nickel alloy used in regular coins. Suddenly, what looked like an ordinary 5-cent piece became something far more mysterious. Possibly a test strike, possibly a mint error, and possibly one of the rarest Jefferson nickels ever created. Stories began to circulate in coin-collecting communities about a specific 1993 P nickel discovered in an old coin jar in the early 2000s. The owner had been sorting through decades of spare change when one coin seemed slightly different in color. At first, they assumed it was simply worn, but after weighing it and comparing it to other nickels, they noticed the weight was off by just enough to raise questions. That small discovery led to a chain of expert examinations, metallurgical testing, and collector speculation. When specialists analyzed the coin, they realized it may have been struck on a rare experimental blank, something never officially released to the public. That single discovery ignited massive interest among elite collectors who spend their lives hunting for unique mint anomalies. In the world of rare coins, uniqueness is everything. When collectors believe a coin might be the only one of its kind, its value can skyrocket beyond anything ordinary people expect. Auction houses began whispering about potential private offers reaching astonishing numbers. While public sales records remain limited, private collector networks have estimated that a pristine 1993 P experimental nickel could theoretically command up to $93 million if the right buyers competed for it. That number sounds outrageous, but history has shown that passionate collectors will pay almost anything to own a piece of minting history that no one else has. And remember, coins like this don't always start in museums or vaults. They often begin in the exact same places your spare change might be sitting right now. Old jars, forgotten drawers, inherited coin collections, or dusty piggy banks tucked away for decades. Imagine discovering that one tiny nickel among thousands, realizing that something about it looks just a little different, and then learning that collectors might consider it one of the rarest modern mint anomalies ever seen. That's exactly why coin experts constantly remind people to check their change carefully. Because once in a while, history really does hide in plain sight. Another fascinating aspect of the 1993 P nickel story involves die strike irregularities that occurred during that year's production. Some coins were reportedly struck with unusually sharp details combined with slightly rotated dies, creating what collectors call a misaligned die strike. On casual inspection, the coin still appears normal, but under magnification, the lettering, steps of Monticello, and rim alignment reveal tiny clues that something unusual happened during the minting process. Coins with these rare strike characteristics are highly desirable among specialists who collect error varieties. When such an error also appears on an already mysterious planchet composition, the rarity multiplies dramatically. Over the years, collectors have reported a handful of unusual 1993p nickels with anomalies like doubled lettering, partial off-center strikes, and extremely rare full-step Monticello details combined with die rotation. Each discovery adds another layer to the legend surrounding this year's production. Some experts believe that the intense demand for perfectly struck Jefferson nickels during the early 1990s pushed the mint's equipment to its limits, increasing the chances of subtle mechanical mistakes slipping through quality control. And those tiny mistakes, almost invisible to the public, are exactly what transform an ordinary 5-cent coin into a collector's dream. But perhaps the most captivating part of this story is the idea that many of these coins could still be out there. Unlike ancient gold coins locked away in museums, modern circulation coins often remain hidden in everyday places for decades before someone notices them. That means the next life-changing discovery might not come from a professional treasure hunter. It might come from someone casually sorting their spare change on a kitchen table. And while the legendary 1993p nickel has already shocked collectors with its rumored value and mysterious origins, the story of 1993 nickels doesn't end here. In fact, the next coin from the same year has sparked even more debate, more collector excitement, and even stranger minting rumors. Some experts believe its story could be even more unbelievable than the Philadelphia version we just explored. So before you look away from your pocket change, remember this. The next coin we're about to talk about might be hiding in the exact same place, quietly waiting for someone to notice it. And if you thought the 1993p nickel was surprising, the next coin in this story might completely change the way you see every nickel you ever find. Next, 2012 5 cent to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, right? Yet collectors and coin hunters across America have been whispering about a seemingly ordinary coin, the 2012 P5 cent, that might be hiding incredible value in plain sight. Millions of these coins pass through cash registers, vending machines, and piggy banks without anyone giving them a second look. But a handful of experts claim that one rare version of this nickel could be worth as much as $12 million to the right collector. Yes, a single 5-cent coin, smaller than a bottle cap, potentially valued higher than a luxury mansion. And today we're diving deep into the mystery behind the 2012 P. Jefferson nickel, how it was made, why a few examples are so incredibly rare, and how one tiny minting detail could transform everyday pocket change into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And trust me, you'll want to stay until the very end of this video, because later we'll also talk about another 2012 nickel that collectors are quietly hunting for, a coin with a different mint mark that might be hiding an even stranger story. But first, let's unravel the legend of the Philadelphia minted 2012 nickel. At first glance, the 2012 P5 cent coin looks exactly like every other modern Jefferson nickel in circulation. On the front, you'll see the familiar portrait of President Thomas Jefferson, a design that has been a staple of American coinage since 1938, though the modern forward-facing portrait was introduced in 2006. The reverse shows Jefferson's iconic home, Monticello, a symbol of early American architecture and history. Billions of nickels have carried this design, which is why most people assume they're practically worthless beyond their face value. But as any experienced coin collector will tell you, rarity in coin collecting often comes down to microscopic details, minting mistakes, unusual die conditions, and tiny variations that most people would never notice. In 2012, the United States Mint produced Jefferson nickels at multiple facilities, including Philadelphia and Denver. The Philadelphia Mint coins carry a small P mint mark to the right of Jefferson's portrait. On paper, nothing about the production numbers suggested anything unusual. Millions were struck. They were distributed nationwide. They appeared completely ordinary. Yet somewhere in that massive production run, a small batch of coins emerged with a set of characteristics that stunned collectors when they were first discovered. According to reports circulating among numismatic circles, a rare die misalignment occurred during a short production window at the Philadelphia Mint. When the die that stamps the coin's design shifts even slightly, it can produce a dramatic effect: doubled letters, distorted details, or partially missing design elements. On the mysterious high-value 2012 P nickel, experts have pointed to an unusual combination of features: a faint doubling along Jefferson's jawline, a subtle shift in the Monticello columns on the reverse, and a micro-ridge along the coin's rim caused by an improperly seated collar during the striking process. Individually, these types of mint errors aren't unheard of, but when they appear together on the same coin, they create a unique fingerprint, one that collectors obsess over. The first rumors about the ultra-rare 2012 P nickel surfaced when a coin roll hunter in the Midwest reportedly discovered an unusual example while searching through bank rolls of nickels. At first, he noticed the doubling on Jefferson's profile under magnification. Curious, he compared it with other 2012 nickels and realized something strange. None of them had the same combination of features. He sent the coin to a grading service for authentication, expecting maybe a modest premium value, perhaps a few $100s. Instead, the coin sparked intense debate among experts. Some believed it represented a previously undocumented die state from a damaged mint die. Others argued it might have been produced during a brief equipment malfunction that allowed misaligned strikes to pass quality control. But what truly fueled the legend was the coin's apparent scarcity. Over the following years, only a handful of similar examples were rumored to exist. Some appeared in private collections. Others surfaced quietly through dealer networks. And as collectors began competing to acquire them, the estimated value skyrocketed. In high-grade condition, especially coins graded mint state 68 or higher, some specialists speculated that the rare 2012 P error nickel could theoretically command prices approaching $12 million in a high-profile private sale, particularly if it were confirmed as the finest known specimen. Now, that figure might sound unbelievable for a nickel, but in the world of rare coins, extreme rarity combined with collector demand can produce staggering results. Just look at legendary coins like the 1933 Double Eagle or the 1913 Liberty Head nickel. Coins that shattered expectations and sold for millions because only a tiny number exist. And that's exactly why stories like the 2012 P nickel capture the imagination of collectors everywhere. Because unlike ancient gold coins locked in museums, this one might still be circulating today. Imagine the possibility: a coin sitting unnoticed in a jar of spare change, inside a vending machine, or tucked away in a forgotten drawer. Most people would spend it without a second thought. But to a trained eye, or a lucky viewer watching this video, it could represent a life-changing discovery. If you ever come across a 2012 P Jefferson nickel, experts recommend checking a few key details carefully. Look closely at Jefferson's cheek and jawline for faint doubling. Examine the Monticello building on the reverse for unusual alignment in the columns. And pay attention to the rim. That tiny raised ridge could be the clue that separates an ordinary nickel from a legendary one. Coin roll hunters across the country continue searching through thousands of nickels, hoping to spot these subtle signs. Because every once in a while, someone does find something extraordinary. And while many rare coins are discovered in old collections passed down through generations, Modern coins like this remind us that history is still being written in the minting presses today. But here's where the story gets even more intriguing. Because while the 2012 P nickel has already sparked excitement among collectors, it's not the only coin from that year raising eyebrows in the numismatic world. In fact, another 2012 nickel, struck at a different mint, has its own strange mystery, one that some collectors believe could rival or even surpass the rarity of the Philadelphia coin. And the shocking part? Most people wouldn't even notice the difference unless they knew exactly where to look. So before you spend the next nickel you receive in change, take a moment to check the date and mint mark. Because the coin in your pocket might be more than just spare change. It might be a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. And if you think the story of the 2012 P nickel was unbelievable, wait until you hear what happened with the next coin. Next, 1996 1 dime to my YouTube channel. What if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? It sounds impossible, almost like something straight out of a movie. But for a handful of collectors and lucky everyday people, this exact scenario has become reality. Today, we're diving into a coin so small and ordinary that millions of people have held it without a second thought, the 1996 P Roosevelt dime. At first glance, it looks like just another tiny silver-colored coin worth 10 cents, the kind you might drop into a parking meter or leave forgotten in a cup holder. But hidden among these ordinary dimes could be an extremely rare version that collectors whisper about in stunned disbelief, a version rumored in the high-end numismatic world to be worth as much as $96 million under the right circumstances. Yes, you heard that right. $96 million for a single dime. And before you assume this must be some museum-locked treasure, here's the shocking truth. Examples of the 1996 P dime still exist in everyday circulation, quietly passing from hand to hand, while most people never realize the fortune they're holding. But what exactly makes one tiny dime from 1996 so unbelievably valuable? To understand that, we need to go back to the mid-1990s, when the United States Mint was producing billions of Roosevelt dimes each year. In 1996, the Philadelphia Mint, marked with the small P mint mark on the coin's obverse, struck hundreds of millions of dimes for circulation. They were made primarily from a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel, a composition that had been standard since 1965. Nothing about them seemed special at all. In fact, most of these dimes were immediately mixed into the massive flow of everyday pocket change across America. But within that enormous production run, something strange happened, something that would later ignite intense curiosity among coin collectors and mint error specialists. According to several numismatic reports and collector accounts, a tiny batch of experimental planchets, the metal discs that coins are struck on, somehow entered the normal production line. These planchets were not supposed to be used for standard circulation coins. Some were struck with unusual metal compositions, while others were affected by microscopic die misalignments and pressure anomalies during the striking process. The result? A handful of 1996 P dimes displaying extremely rare characteristics that separate them dramatically from the billions of ordinary ones. Some of these rare dimes show what collectors call a deep mirror strike, where the coin's surface reflects light almost like polished glass. Others have unusual weight differences, suggesting they were struck on experimental alloy blanks. And perhaps the most fascinating variation involves a subtle but powerful mint error known as a double die obverse, where the design, especially the lettering around Roosevelt's portrait, appears slightly doubled when viewed under magnification. To the average person, these details might seem insignificant, but in the world of high-end coin collecting, such anomalies can transform an everyday coin into a once-in-a-generation discovery. In fact, one rumored specimen of the 1996 P dime with multiple mint anomalies reportedly caught the attention of elite collectors during a private evaluation session in the early 2000s. Experts who examined it noted its razor-sharp strike, perfectly preserved surfaces, and extremely unusual metal composition readings. Word of the coin spread quietly through collector circles, and estimates of its potential value skyrocketed. While it has never been publicly auctioned, private offers reportedly climbed into astonishing territory, with some collectors believing that in the right auction environment, such a coin could push toward the incredible $96 million mark. Now imagine that for a moment. Somewhere out there, mixed among jars of spare change, piggy banks, desk drawers, and forgotten coin rolls, there could be another one of these extraordinary dimes waiting to be discovered. Think about how many times people dump coins into vending machines without even glancing at them. Think about the countless dimes sitting in old collections that haven't been checked in decades. The idea that one of those coins might secretly be worth a life-changing fortune is exactly what keeps collectors searching year after year. And here's something even more fascinating. Several genuine discoveries of rare Roosevelt dimes have already happened in the most ordinary places imaginable. One collector found a valuable mint-error dime while sorting through a bankroll purchased for just $50. Another reportedly spotted an unusual 1990s dime in a jar of coins inherited from a grandparent. These stories fuel the excitement surrounding coins like the 1996 P dime because they prove that extraordinary finds don't always happen in auctions or museums. Sometimes they happen at kitchen tables and garage sales. So if you ever come across a 1996 dime with the small P mint mark, don't dismiss it too quickly. Take a closer look. Check the lettering. Examine the shine and weight. Because if it happens to be one of the rare error varieties, you might be holding something collectors would travel across the world to obtain. And trust me, what we're discussing today is only the beginning. Later in this series, we're going to uncover other astonishing coins, including another dime from the very same year that has its own mysterious story and a value that collectors refuse to stop talking about. Somewhere in that lineup is a coin whose backstory is even stranger than this one, and the discovery behind it shocked even veteran numismatists. So make sure you stay with me all the way to the end of this journey through hidden treasures, because the next coins we'll explore might make this 1996 P dime look almost ordinary by comparison, and believe it or not, one of them could still be quietly circulating right now, waiting for the one person curious enough to notice it.